Welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube channel and podcast. My name is Matthew, and thank you very much for being here for another match preview. Yes, we're on the back of a massive win against Man United on Saturday, and this train just keeps rolling, baby. Even though some bits keep falling off at every stop, we're still going. We're still going. We're on our way to Everton. We're on our way to Goodison Park, a game under the lights on Thursday. And to help me preview this one, I'm joined by two specimens. I'm joined by Andy. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Are we doing all right?
I'm not bad, thank you. Not being referred to as a specimen. I hope it's in a positive sense, but
always, mate. Always. And speaking of specimens, Daryl, you're with us too. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about Everton, but there's obviously loads of stuff that's going on as well. But before we do any of that, we've obviously got to have a little word from our sponsors at Magpin.
The GallowgateShots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamelled pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com.
Yes, indeedy. So, Andy, I want to come to you first, mate. Have you came down from Saturday yet? Have you processed what's going on? The fact that we have barely any players, yet we seem to just keep pulling results out of our back pocket.
Well, I don't know what there is to get over because it's just another easy win against another small team at the moment. It's mad, isn't it? I think your analogy at the start was perfect about the Newcastle Express with bits falling off. It's perfect. It's unreal. It feels very much like last season in that we're all still amazed that we're actually a good team that hasn't really wore off yet, but the reality does set in from time to time when you think, oh, there's another injury, who's that gadget on the bench? He sounds like a Game of Thrones character, not an actual Newcastle player. It's great. Obviously, amazing result. We said in our match reaction that power dynamic between us and Man United has just completely shifted. We are very much at the table now, and it feels like we've sort of taken their seat. So great win. On to the next one, coming thick and fast. We just got to go out there and do the business again, which I'm sure we'll get on to.
I mean, I'm not going to make any more chair analogies. I know you've just said about chairs and stuff, but seats at the table, they are very limited. And I was going to make a musical chairs sort of analogy, but we'll leave it. We'll skip it. Nobody wants to hear that. Daryl, I mean, we've mentioned injuries again there, and we'll get onto it as we talk about the squad and stuff. But, I mean, I think we're past the point of writing off this side ever, I think now. I think even when, I saw that team against Bournemouth and we did think, oh, God, that's going to be tough. And it was tough and we lost the game. But we've since fielded similar sides against, the likes of Man United and won the game and comfortably, one of the most one-sided 1-0s you've ever seen. So do you find it hard now to even write these guys off, even if the team sheet or the bench, exactly like the options that we have are limited?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one thing we can take from that Bournemouth game was that they weren't just physically shattered, they were mentally shattered as well. And we've mentioned it previously, that the break that we've had for that international break was just the tonic that we all needed for most of that squad to get over the mental fatigue that they were suffering as well as the physical. And like you say, the last couple of games now where we've fielded what is a relatively weak inside for us, considering the number of injuries that we do have, and have added to, thanks to the weekend's game. It really is showing that there's so much grit in this side that they just, they don't know when to stop, and they are just so good, and they are prepared to put in the graft that when required and the effort, and that they're capable even now with the injuries, and that it is a weak side. We are playing a weak side in these games, but we're still grinding out these results.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it does make you think about what could have been. Could have been. We're still really in the meat of this season now. We're not even really halfway. But it does. Just imagine if we had, the likes of, your Botmans and your Harvey Barneses and your Wilsons always fit. It'd just be. I wouldn't say the sky's the limit, but it's really amazing what Howe's doing with this really small group of players. But we'll talk now about our opponents on Thursday, because the games are coming thick and fast. We have barely started on this journey of 10 games in the space of 30 odd days. We've got a game nearly every 3 days, which is great for a side that seemed to, be made of sticky tape, blue tack, and crisp packet. But like Everton, they seem the last few years have been a side in disarray, a club in disarray. They've just had a 10-point deduction. But you look at them, just football and objectivity, you look at the view of just the results, and things aren't actually that bad. I know they're sitting second bottom, and I know that there might be another points deduction looming, but let's say that this one's the only one they're going to get. The last 7 games, 4 wins, a draw, and 2 losses, and those 2 losses coming to Man United and Liverpool. Things aren't that bad from a football perspective. What do you think, Andy? Do you think, given what they're doing and what Sean Dyche is doing, they're going to probably comfortably stay up still?
Yeah, I think they're a lot better team than people are giving them credit for, and that is obviously because of the points deduction. You look at the table, and the points deduction, it was equal parts funny and equal parts horrible, because I do think it was a little harsh, because if they just let themselves go into administration, they'd have got a 9-point deduction, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, I've got some stats. It's going to be quite stat heavy, so I hope it's not too boring. But it's a bit bored today, so thought I'd do some reading.
Love it.
So I will get to Everton, but just to go into Newcastle, because the Athletic did a really good bit on this about how different we are away from home this year. So we've taken 21 points at home and only 5 points away. That's the biggest differential of any team in the Premier League this season.
Wow.
Which means we've got 80% of our points coming from home this year. If you flip that around to Everton, in the away table, they're second. There's only Spurs that are a better away side than Everton. But when you look at them at home, they've lost to Fulham, lost to Wolves, lost to Arsenal, lost to Luton, beat Bournemouth, drew to Brighton, lost to Man U. So they're almost the polar opposite to us this season.
Styles make fights, Andy.
Yeah. Wilder against Fury. I don't know which one of them I'd want to be. So without the points deduction, they'd be 12th, be a point ahead of Crystal Palace, who are the most comfortable mid-table teams. So you've got to say Dyche has done pretty well. Last season, they were a dead ringer to go down. They looked a completely beaten side. They had this massive debt overhanging them with the stadium, and obviously they must have known they had some issue with the points deduction potentially looming over them as well. But what we've seen in the media and what a few of their players have said, including and Dyche as the manager as well, saying this is maybe a bit of a blessing in disguise, because it's give us a rallying call. This is very much us against the world. And when you might not necessarily feel like you've got much to play for, that's sometimes what you need in a season. So I don't think this is going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. We saw against the Man United, they had a protest, lots of boos and jeers and things, but Man United did the best thing they could do, which was score an absolute goal of the season, push Castle goal in the first 10 minutes. So if we could do that would help. But yeah, definitely not going to be an easy game. They've got some good players. They're really well managed. Definitely not going to be pushovers, but something's got to give. We've either got to get some away points, and they've got to start getting some home points as well, or we just draw, and then everyone's still rubbish away and at home.
I was just about to say bagels all around there, 0-0. Coming there. But Andy's just mentioned there, Daryl, about Sean Dyche, our favourite grizzly voiced man. Does he get a hard rap? Does he maybe get underestimated in his managerial abilities? I, for one, don't mind him. I've heard him on a few podcasts. He's more than just a direct pump the ball along, but he will strip back sometimes, clubs who are trying to, like Everton, and take them back to basics, but then, drill into them fitness and all that stuff. And, like we've just said, there would have been 12th if it wasn't for this points deduction, which isn't exactly amazing, but given where they've came from in previous seasons, they'll take that because they've been, largely relegation candidates. What do you think about Sean Dyche?
Well, the thing with Sean Dyche is, he is pretty underrated in what he does, because he has that skill set in him to, like you say, he'll strip a team back to basics, and then he'll start to mold them into his image, and then all of a sudden, like he was at Burnley, they'll start to be able to pick up results, and they'll be consistent to a point where they will like stay in a certain area in a division. So, like Andy said, if they didn't have this points deduction, they would be sitting mid-table right now, and that tends to be sort of Sean Dyche sort of peak performance level. And again, he's not. I don't have a distinct hatred for the man. I feel like, he can come in and do a job, and he does the job really well. He can work on a tight budget, which means he's probably quite a suitable fit for Everton given their situation. And the one thing I would also mention, I think, as Andy said, that this points deduction, what it's done is it's galvanised the Everton fan base, and they're all united behind this cause. And it was mentioned there, get Everton against the world, and that's pretty. I think that's how they like it. To be honest, they like that.
Well, last season it was all about them against their own owners, wasn't it? Whereas it's
exactly
completely now.
And we sort of liked it when it was that way as well. When it's Newcastle against the world, it sort of brings out an extra level in us as supporters. And we've already seen that with Everton with their mini protest. And I think, judging by some of the stuff I've seen on Twitter, that they're thinking of more creative ways to protest and disrupt games. So it'll be interesting to see if they've got anything coming on
It's not going
Thursday
to be
night.
someone tying themselves to the goalpost again, is it?
No, I bloody well hope not. Not after that one.
But we got some
I
better
think
players this time.
what I think it will do is it might actually deflect away from the return again of Anthony Gordon to Goodison Park, because they might actually be more focused on doing their protest against the Premier League, etc., rather than focusing on targeting him, which they tried to do in the last game. But as we well know, that the last game at Goodison Park was quite a good result for us, with a 4-1 win, with 2 goals from Wilson, a goal from Joe Linton, and the assist of the year, of the decade, of the century from Alex Isak.
The
Coming
assist
off
that
that
wasn't
left
an
wing.
assist though. They didn't
Technically,
give him it.
yes.
Yeah.
Technically. But
The
we'll
best
have it.
non-assist ever.
Ever, yeah, absolutely. And of course, also we have to mention our mate Jordan, in goal. Whether or not Sean Dyche wises up to the fact that he can't play against us and he plays somebody else, I don't know. Everybody else seemed to pick up on that. In previous Everton managers did it. Rafa did it. I think he played Stecklenburg in one game at St James's after what happened. But we'll see what happens with Dyche. I don't think he'll have learned his lesson, and he tends to stick with a solid 11, doesn't he? So I think Jordan will probably play on Thursday. But just another thing to come in on that, if I may, because another little stat to pop in here.
Oh,
is
it's
when,
a stat
How
buffet,
prepared
ladies
we
and
are.
gentlemen.
Hey, so
A
when we
smorgasbord of stats.
so when we beat Everton 4-1 back in April, it came just a few days after we absolutely smashed Spurs 6-1 at St James's. So that was 10 goals in 2 games. And then the following game, which was back at St James's Park against Southampton, we scored another 3. So it was probably one of the most profitable weeks of goal scoring in terms of the club's recent, if not history, with 13 goals in a week across 3 games. So we were really good form then. And, you can't really say we're in such good goal scoring form now, but everything else, possession dominance, the way we're playing, the style of play, it's all in there. We're all on this little wave of momentum. And it'd be really good to see us take it into that game on Thursday and be able to break the cauldron of noise that Goodison Park will be.
The bear pit, as the people have been calling it. But we shall see. I mean, you mentioned a very solid 11 there. Obviously, Everton came off the back of a decent win against Nottingham Forest, who obviously have their own trials and tribulations at the moment. But going away, an away point in any away win, in any Premier League game is a good one. You look at the starting 11. Let's just go quickly from back to front. You've got our mate Pickford in goal, Mikolenko, Braithwaite, Tarkowski, Young, who at this point must be 50 years old.
Definitely not young.
Yeah, he's definitely not young.
Ashley old.
Ashley middle age, we'll say. But still, I mean, Sean Dyche still trusts him, so I don't want to insult him too much. But he has had sort of these performances recently, not to sort of skip ahead, that the Gary Neville against West Brom, Peter Odom Wingy sort of performances where like wingers are really getting at him and he can't do anything about it. And I think maybe this might be his last season, but you never know. He's done very well to get where he is. But then you go to the midfield, you've got Dwight McNeil, Idrissa Gueye, Garner, Harrison, obviously Jack Harrison, who Eddie Howe seems to like quite a bit. We were linked with him quite a bit when he was at Leeds. And then you've got Beto up front. Well, question marks over where Dominic Calvert-Lewin might start as well, because he had a calf issue in the week. And then you've got a couple of options on the bench, the likes of your Dan Jumas, who initially didn't want to go to Everton and then went to Spurs and realised he wasn't going to get played, so he went to Everton. That is the guy, yeah? I'm thinking of the right guy there.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But I've just read out that team there, Andy. When you read that team, is there anywhere where you go, yeah, he's quite good? Like if he's on his on song, he might be causes issues, or is it more just the collective that you need to be wary of with Everton?
Yeah, there's no world beaters in that team, is there? Very similar to his Burnley team, not in terms of personnel, although I know you've got Tarkowski and McNeil, who are Dyche favourites, aren't they? But I really like McNeil. I don't think he'd necessarily be a good fit in our team because he sort of just strolls about and then we'll just score a worldie. But I think he's got real good quality. He's almost like a bit of an old-fashioned winger in that he actually plays on the side of his foot so he can whip them in with his left foot. Calvert-Lewin's obviously a big miss, but can you really call him a big miss when he never plays anymore? It's almost like he's not an Everton player anymore because he's been so riddled with injuries. But no, I think you're right. It's definitely the collective with them more than anything else. They have a a methodology and a style of play which some might say is a bit old-fashioned, but I do think Dyche, he's not just Allardyce incarnate. I think he is actually a good manager and he knows what he's doing and he plays to the personnel he's got. So we've seen him put Doucouré a bit further up, playing him as a number 10, and that's been quite nice from them. Although I think he's out now, isn't he? No world beaters, but I think you can say that for quite a few teams in the Premier League. You've got teams like Brentford that are a bit like that when they don't have Tony. Palace, although they have people like Elise. These days in the Premier League, it seems to be more and more about how well your squad is coached more than individual brilliance. And I think that's why we've seen Arsenal doing really well. And obviously Man City are the exception because they've got 22 world-class players and a world-class manager. But waffling a bit there. But yeah, they're a good side. They're good collective. But I don't see anyone there where you think, oh bloody hell, we need to double up on him, we need to be worried about him. But for me, McNeil's the standout quality in their side.
Yeah, you've got used to guys coming at us with prepared stats. I read a squad out which misses one of their best players, in Doucouré, of course. But yeah, I mean,
he is still about. I thought so. Yeah,
he definitely started. I've just whilst you were obviously putting a very good point across there, I thought I'd have a little switch back. Yeah, there was 10 players in that team that I've just announced there. So
well, we'll definitely beat that team.
Well, I mean, for me, I don't know. I think the collective, like you say, there's no well beaters, but he's got them well drilled. They're going to be working hard, and so two hard-working teams. We work hard in a different sense in terms of we're always trying to press the ball, but it comes with its own sort of price to pay, because we've found this season a lot of the teams that press high, the likes of your Brightons, Spurs, obviously Newcastle, who are very much up at the top of the charts when it comes to winning possession from presses, etc. They've all got a slew of injuries. Now, I think obviously the schedule's one thing, our style of players the other, but then this curse we seem to have at the moment of injuries, it struck again against Man United, and every time I've been lucky enough to come on the match preview, I've been somehow asked a question about Nick Pope, and I'm very much Team Pope, and I think he's absolutely amazing, and he's so important to us. There's others who, want to throw shade on him or whatever, but I think I'm scared that we're going to see how important he is. But obviously, Martin Dubravka, Daryl, he was a huge, I say huge. He was a small, bright light in a very dark time when he was, under Rafa and stuff. And he can be a very good goalkeeper. Does it concern you that, it's another big injury? We now have our full injury 11 that could probably go far in the League Cup by itself. I don't know. Is it really concerning for you? Are you just sort of okay to see Dubravka come in?
No, I think we can count ourselves very fortunate that I think the goalkeeping department is an area where it is relatively strong with regards to that immediate depth. So we've got Dubravka who can come in now, and we, those of us who've been here for a little while now know what Dubravka brings to this team and what he can do on that pitch. And like you said, he was a little shining light in a dark time. One of the stars of Rafa's team. Some of the saves he could pull out, and he kept us in a lot of games during that period.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a lot of credit in the bank with me. I would never have. I'm like you. I'm a big fan of Nick Pope as well. But I'm not too disheartened to see him come in. I'm also not that worried about seeing Karius on the bench as the now first choice backup either. He was hard done by towards the end of his Liverpool career, and he's just needed a chance. And as unfortunate as he was in that League Cup final back in February, it was just one of those games where we just played that team at the wrong time, as Andy has said before. It's. I think Martin will be absolutely fine, and he'll slot in. He will. He'll do a perfect job. He'll be fine.
First name terms there, Daryl. Martin. Nice. Poor Martin.
M-dubs.
Now, I mean, I'd like to sort of put a magnifying glass on our squad, but I mean, there's not really much we can talk about, Andy. It's the case of it's going to be the same team yet again. We've got Jurgen Klopp praising us after the game yesterday, saying he hasn't really praised us much, but he's going to, because we played the exact same team as we did against PSG at the weekend, and he said they just seemed the intensity was matched, and it was two obviously different games, but the way we played against Man United really impressed him. I'm not sure why I'm talking too much about Jurgen Klopp, but when you're even impressing the likes of him, a top manager, obviously it shows you how good we're doing. But can it be? I mean, realistically, can we sustain that? Because I'm worried about us going into this now and it being another Bournemouth rather than another Man United. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't know Klopp had praised us. That's quite nice, because that's one bit of praise and 15 bits of slight he sent us so far.
Called us a commercial. commercial. We are a commercial for pressing, counter pressing, and direct football. And he said he was very impressed.
Well, that's nice from the father of heavy metal football. So we'll take that because he's obviously he's the one that brought this over from Dortmund to the Premier League effectively. Pep obviously did it. But yeah, that's nice. But yes, can we sustain it? Well, we are so far. Even as bits fall off, as to go back to that same analogy, bits are falling off the chair. We'll double the analogies. Bits are falling off, but we're just finding a way, and it's testament to how well coached all of the squad is. I think a lot of managers fall foul of this, where they don't build that ethos through the entire club, and we're seeing that with Howe. We're seeing Lewis Miley, who must have had basically 0 minutes on a first team training, coming in and looking like he's matching what Longstaff was doing, matching what Tonali was doing. He's done great. So we are sustaining it. The worry now is, are we going to get to a point where we can't field a first 11, because we're still able to do that at the moment? One more injury, and we're back to Dummett and Ritchie. But then, if it's not one of those positions, it is a kid who has to come in effectively. So we are sustaining it, whether we can or not. It's complete luck of the draw. I know we've mentioned about the schedule, but a lot of the injuries we're getting, they're not even schedule injuries.
Yeah, half of them are, half of them aren't.
Yeah, it's like Byrne just smashing his back to pieces. You could never account for that. Anderson managed to do that as well. I mean, I don't think your team's ever had 2 broken spines.
2 broken backs and 2 shoulder dislocations.
Yeah, I don't know what's in that new aqua spa in the training ground, but it's not working. But, so yeah, all we can say is all we can do is praise all of them that go out there, knowing that they're going to have to go for 90 minutes, knowing that they're not going to get much rest, they're going to have to go again. They're just class. It's a testament to the professionalism. It's a testament to the coaching. I just hope that it's not one of these games where we need to win it in 60 minutes because the legs will go. Because we saw it against PSG. We had that game won in 45 minutes, and if we had the benefit of rest beforehand and subs on the bench, we would have won that game. And if the referee hadn't been a complete, and then Man United as well, even though it wasn't quite as bad, it did feel like on 80 minutes Isak got tired, so there wasn't really that press from the front. We did just think we can't run, so we are going to have to sit. But then even when we do have to sit, Howe coaches this low block so well. It reminds me of the first half of last season when we were just winning games 1-0, 2-1. We were just holding out on games. We weren't really blowing teams away. So we're just bringing out the best of us, the high press at the start, and then when we get a bit tired, just that fight to not concede. So hopefully in this game it is going to be different. I jumping ahead slightly, but I do think we'll put a good shift in here. I think we'll get a nice win where we're not all praying for VAR checks and everything by the end of the game. It would be nice just to have a nice 2-goal cushion for once. But yeah, I love the effort. We've always said, don't demand a team that wins, we demand a team that tries, and we're getting both, so it's quite nice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought after the Bournemouth game, and again, it was one of those ones where if you're an actual level-headed football Newcastle supporter, you could just see where the result it came from because of just tiredness, physically and mentally. Injuries keep coming. And I remember saying, I think that this is where our season slides, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing Howe can do about it. He's got a full squad, full first 11 of players out, but we've managed to beat Arsenal, and we've managed to beat Chelsea, and we've managed to beat Man United, and we've managed to get a draw away in really horrible circumstances against PSG away, and that's just reading that out is ridiculous. I know each club in isolation, especially Man United and Chelsea, aren't exactly the teams of old, even though they've spent ridiculous fortunes on their teams. But it is mental. But, that's what I fear. I feel, the train might come off the tracks eventually because it has to. It has to. If it keep getting an injury every other game and your injuries that you have, I mean, who's closest? I think we're expecting Sven Botman's running still.
To resume this week, I think.
Yeah, Willock's Achilles, apparently not too serious. Longstaff's heel's not too bad, but it's still a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe. I don't know how far we're into Wilson's supposed 6 weeks, and obviously Harvey Barnes is expected this month, but I'd just love to be able to get a couple of games without anyone getting crocked. Even Gordon said at the end of the Man United game, he said, I'm limping. He said, but we've just got bruises and kicks, but we keep running for each other, which is all we can ask for. And I think some people might forget that, when you maybe lose a couple of games when this fatigue sets in, but it's shown no sign of doing so, Daryl. I mean, we've got no options on the bench. Maybe Young Hall might make an appearance at some stage. Hopefully it's not enforced. But I mean, we'll come into the end of this. We'll start with our predictions. I'll come to you first, Daryl. What are you expecting?
Well, I don't want to be the pessimist here, and
He's going to be the pessimist.
I'm not going to predict a loss, though. I'm not predicting a loss.
So that's a weird way of saying it's going to be a draw.
It is. That's Well, that's what I'm going to predict, because I just feel like the cauldron. I don't know what it is. It's just something in us makes us think that they're going to disrupt the game somehow, and it's going to affect us in a way that isn't going to be pleasant. And we might not be able to get a win, but I certainly think we're more than capable of getting a draw. I sort of said the same thing going into the Paris game: a draw and a clean bill of health, please. That's all I want. I just want a clean bill of health like you, Matty. Nobody else to go off with like a bent finger or another dislocated shoulder or anything like that. You know what I mean? Nobody lose any more game time. And I think a 1-1 draw down there, and I think it'll be a really difficult game just because of, we've mentioned it before, that cauldron, the atmosphere, the bear pit, and I sort of had similar reservations going into that ground last season, and look what happened. But I think a 1-1 draw.
Andy, you said you were going to be a bit more positive. So how are we going to deal with Sean Dyche's bubbly cauldron?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping after the game, Sean Dyche in his usual husky voice is just saying, that we were too much for them and that they gave it their all. Is this going to be the last game we play at Goodison? When's this new stadium open?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe never if they go and bust.
Well, yeah, true. I think Daryl might be giving the Everton fans a little bit too much credit. Well, I do agree. I do agree with you a little bit. I don't think it's quite walking into the San Siro, which we have obviously done this season.
It was pretty fanatic. I mean, I think if Garnacho doesn't do that, that's a proper, could be a sliding doors moment. That, like, the fact that at the start it was vociferous.
I mean, it would be hilarious if we did exactly the same thing and scored a bicycle kick in the first 20 minutes.
I want to be the exact opposite. I want to be like
OG.
Like spectacular OG.
What, from Pickford?
Yeah, it's the post, it's in the head and the arse, and then goes in.
Maybe it would be like that game a few years back where we're losing in the 92nd minute, then bring it back to 2-2 with Lejeune making an Undertaker-esque reappearance. But prediction, right? I do think I'm more positive. I'm also not predicting a loss because I'm predicting a win. I think we'll put in I agree with you. I don't think they're ridiculous points to make. I know where you're coming from. I just think we're going to put in a good game. Sometimes you just got a feeling that you're going to put a good shift in. Beat the Scouse Mackhams, move on to the real Mackhams in January.
Bring that in.
But no, I think I just fancy us to put a good shift in. I think we'll start the game strong. We'll quiet the crowd down, and we'll just be able just to control the game and see a result out without mass panic, which would be nice for not just the well-being of the players, but for the well-being of the fans as well. Because I'm sick of holding out for 1-0 wins. So yeah, 2-0 win. We'll go for. We'll get Isak on the score sheet and Tony G start of the second half to shush the Everton fans and kiss the Newcastle badge. And then there'll be loads of bits of purple card thrown at him from the Everton fans.
At least he won't have to drive out in his own car this time. That was nasty. I'm
Ashley Young to get sent off. Because he keeps wiring people and not getting sent off. So it's
had one card this year, I think. One red card, I think, already this year.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I do think that's going to be where we're going to be able to get at them down that right. So Gordon's side, it's going to be a nice little battle. Hopefully it bears fruit for us. In terms of what I think is going to happen, obviously there's horrible little fucking negative gremlins at the back of my head, and I'm thinking about the same thing as Daryl. I'm thinking Bournemouth. I'm thinking away from home. We've seen the stats that you so kindly provided, Andy. But something has to give, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a good away win. I'm sort of trying to picture and positively put in the universe like we get off flying out the traps. Like first 25 minutes, score a couple of goals, and then it slowly goes down into we're having to just defend, and maybe them sneak one through to make it a bit nervy at the end. So I'm going to go 2-1. For some reason I can see Almiron in my mind's eye. Don't know what he's doing. Hopefully he's scoring. But I'm going to go 2-1, which is a positive one for me. And obviously people are going to let us know in the comments what they think. That's 2 wins and 1 draw. It's not negative. We're being pragmatic and realistic, but still very nice set of results. So if you want to still kick off, because we didn't say 6-0, That's what YouTube's for, baby. But anyway, that wraps it up for another match preview. Get well soon, Scott. Scott, obviously, I am not Scott. Scott normally does this. He's just a little bit under the weather at the moment, but we're sending our love his way. If you're not a member of the channel already, obviously, what are you doing? It's only like, was it like £5 a month, something like that? And
From
you get
£2.99 a month.
$2.99.
From.
Come on. What are you doing? But you get all sorts of stuff, early access videos, exclusive videos, access to the members chat, so much more coming in the new year as well. And if you haven't, obviously, all that YouTube spiel, comment on it, like it, turn the bell on, do whatever you're meant to do to make this channel get out to people more and improve it, grow our community. We love talking to you. We love doing these videos. But until then, he's hoping that we get something on Thursday. He is hoping this train keeps going a little longer, and somehow when we stop, we get another wheel attached and Sean comes back. But it's good night for me. Goodbye, Daryl.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.